It's just been crazy. Everything has changed so much, hasn't it? Like the platforms weren't even there a few years ago. The updates literally every week. I look on like what's his name, Adam Mazzeri the head of Instagram. He does a Q&A every week and like a video out of an update of Instagram. Literally every week there's something new.
Welcome to Confessions of a Social Media Manager with me, Erin from Agora Pulse. Today I have with me Beth Thomas. Beth is a social media manager for Deliveroo. Now, I'm not sure we need a huge introduction to Deliveroo because, it's basically been the biggest online food delivery service in the UK and Ireland since it started in 2013. But they do exist and they're very, very big. If you don't have that on your app, you probably have one of their competitors on your app, but we won't mention that because we're talking about Deliveroo today. It doesn't always just operate in the UK and Ireland. They also have outlets in France, Belgium, Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, UAE, and Kuwait. I'm sure that's pretty much all of it, but I'm sure Beth will correct me if there's other places that they operate in as well. Beth started at the company in 2020, where she manages all the social media and influencer activity for the brand within the UK and Ireland. She works with agencies, restaurants, and grocery partners, as well as Deliveroo's internal team to create content that is engaging, on trend, and fun. And it's fair to say Beth has been doing that very, very well. She hit the ground running when it came to her building her career in social media. She got her teeth at startups, creating digital strategies for businesses like Nouveau Lashes and Voicebox. Then moving on to a pretty major role as a social media manager at Birchbox, a beauty subscription box service, where she managed their Instagram and Facebook, doing everything from content creation to scheduling to paid to video to brand partnerships. She did a lot there. I think Beth is a very modern iteration of what it means to work in social media today. From the get-go, she started working in digital strategies, and the workplace that she has worked in have required fast-paced thinking. They have moved with the times, far beyond any organizations that are out there at the moment. And when asked to describe her career so far, she said it was fast-paced, random, and exciting. Welcome, Beth.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you for the lovely intro.
It's okay. I want to impress to people how much you've done because this is why we wanted you on the podcast because I was looking at your CV, looking at where you've worked, and it was just clear to me that you've done so much in the 8 years you've been working in social media. So I'm really excited to talk to you today. We're going to launch in straight into the first question, which is if someone came to you and asked you for advice for working in social media, what would be the first thing you'd say to them?
I think I'd say it's really fun. It's really bloody hard. Am I allowed to swear? Is bloody a swear word?
You can swear as much as you want.
I'll just keep it as that then. But yeah, it's really fun. It can be really hard. Hardly anyone you work with will like understand what you're doing. But I think that's okay. And as long as you're someone who's confident in your approach and is a people person, I think that's quite important for these roles because you work with so many different departments. That I think you will do well. I think it's a hugely growing market, and I'd imagine in 10 years' time, the amount of people who work in social will be huge compared to now. And I mean, even just a few years ago, there was like a very small group of us, and now I feel like I don't want to say the tribes are being built, but there's so many more of us now, and I feel like because I think quite often we feel quite like on our own, whether that's because our social team is just us, or other people in the business don't really understand what we're doing, and it can be quite like isolating. But I've found over the last few months especially, there's like joining Facebook groups, and I'm in a WhatsApp chat with like social managers, and there are lots of outlets now for us to all chat together, and no one's like hiding what's working and what isn't. Like we're all trying to do the same thing and create brilliant content for the brands we work at or ourselves if we are the brands. And I think it is a nice community of people doing similar jobs.
I definitely agree with that because what I've noticed just even in my current role now is that the people who want to share their social knowledge will share it. It's not very gatekeepy in from other industries that I've experienced that they're keeping stuff to themselves or you know hidden meetings or things like that. People always want to share their knowledge and and be recognized for sharing their knowledge, but also if you've got a question, someone will answer you. If someone wanted a reel about it, someone would there's a carousel post about it. You can find that knowledge about pretty much everything that you need to. And I've noticed it well. There's so many really well-built communities at the moment that are very welcoming. So yeah, I think one of the tips is like if you feel alone, go join a community. They will welcome you.
Yeah, because I think we're all like trying to work out what works and what doesn't. And it's not like we can go back 10 years and look at what worked then and what didn't, because these jobs didn't really exist then. So I think lots of us are like the founding people who have worked in social from when brands recognized that they needed people to work in social. So I think a lot of us are like really happy to help people come up as well, because we know it's been really hard.
So what is a typical day like for you at Deliveroo?
Definitely varied, but I feel like anyone who works in social, the days literally are never the same. It's like that question in an interview when you're like, what's the average day like? And everyone's like, there's no such thing. So things change constantly. And when I started at Deliveroo, my role was doing a lot of different things. Our team has grown in the last few weeks. The team has taken on a lot more people to work in social and influencer, which is brilliant. But I think the thing I really don't like, a lot of meetings. Um, I I compare my diary sometimes to my friend Ashley. She works at this brand called Peanut. It's like I call it like the Tinder for mums. But it's like an app. It's an app for women to like meet each other. And she does the same job as me, but her diaries are just like, and she has so much time to get on with her work, and then I'm trying to like squeeze in writing coffee or proving briefs or all these different things in, like, the 30 minutes you get between meetings. So a lot of meetings, a lot of slacks and emails, that the boring side of it. But then the more fun side, I get to go to shoots, I get to direct on shoots. And we work with some brilliant agencies, so working closely with them, approving briefs, brainstorming, and then I feel like after work, that's when I spend my time looking across all social channels, which I don't even know is like just me scrolling anymore, or if it's work. Do you have that as well, where you're like, I don't know if I'm doing this for enjoyment or because I'm like saving loads of things as inspiration and sending them to people at work?
I'm fully going back into social media after work for enjoyment. If I happen to see something that is useful for work, I will save it. I am not going there to go look for work. Do you know what I mean? And I keep my algorithms clean on my private profiles and then the work ones. But I'm not following any of that stuff. If I have to see one more IG carousel about how to make a reels content, I'll kill myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, I don't want to see that after 6 p.m. I don't want to. I don't want to. So I do keep it very, very clean.
Oh, that's very good. Everybody should listen to you and not me, because the lines definitely blur in my life of like what's work and what isn't. And I think I've seen over the last 2 years working at somewhere super fast paced like Deliveroo is, um, that I have struggled to like switch off. And I think your work isn't as good then when you're just trying to constantly be doing things. It's much better to do things um, in the work hours assigned to you.
Yeah, it's like it's that sort of perfectionism that creeps into social media quite a lot, and that perfectionism kind of sometimes does come out of a sort of fear that you're not keeping up with everything so much, and that drives that sense of like I must be doing everything all the time because everything is moving so quickly. And this is why I want to talk to loads of different social media managers because some industries push that kind of angle naturally because of what they're in, and some don't. So I'm always really interested in how people sort of manage that sort of thing. We'll probably go back to that later about sort of like work-life balance and things like that as well.
I feel like I'm a yes person, which is something I definitely need to work on, but always trying to keep all different parts of the business and everyone happy, and yeah, it is tricky.
I know that people pleasing thing is still part of that social media mindset. Like we've got the people pleasing because we just want people to like our content and share it, and then the people pleasing goes ends up infecting just the way that you approach the rest of your work because you're just like, yeah, yeah, we'll do a campaign like that. Yeah, 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 cool, cool, cool. And then inside you're just like, please, just don't make me do a campaign on Twitter Spaces. I want to cry. So yeah, it's definitely that like it's not backbone. That's not probably the best word for it, but like red lines, deciding where you want to have them and where you don't want to have them. So no, we've gone from like the typical day. What is like generally the most exciting thing you're working on at the moment?
I think we're planning in quarters at Deliveroo, and We're planning now for what quarter is that? Q2, yeah. And I think now that the world is, fingers crossed, like going back to normal and COVID seems to be like more at bay and we know more about what's going on, that we'll be able to bring back loads of like the fun stuff we used to do. I mean, it was actually before I started, our PR teams at Deliveroo are amazing. And they do so many cool stunts and things like immersive outside where people can get involved in. So I'd imagine there'll be like lots more of that coming back as over the year. And I think that's where you can create some of like the most fun content, and you'll get so much earned social from it as well, from people just walking past. And then from that, how we can do our community management and react to what people are saying online is where we can find those like niche spaces to, I don't want to use the word viral, but getting those tweets or those comments that really do blow up. I think a lot of that is from earned social. And I think a lot of that will come as well when, as I said, people are out and seeing things that we're doing more.
So when you say earned, are you saying like organic? Is that your way of saying it?
Yeah. So people creating content for us, like UGC, I guess.
What are the three words that drive Deliveroo's social media output then?
Oh gosh. Okay. I think we try to, I don't know how to do three words. I want to put it in a sentence. I think we try and be as creative as we can to put our basically our business is like restaurant and grocery partners, so they need to be at the heart of what we do. However, lots of content that works best on social isn't about a grocery partner or a restaurant. It's like tapping into what people care, and I mean people do care about food and restaurants and grocery partners, but it's those like pop culture sort of moments that we can slot ourselves into. So I think trying to find as many of those is something, and be reactive is something we do a lot at Deliveroo, whereas at Birchbox we literally didn't do any reactive content. It was all about this box, all about the brands inside, and we just stuck to that. And then I joined Deliveroo, and there was this whole new side of social that I'd not really dabbled in before, but we've seen such crazy results from doing that, that's always something I think should be part of a social strategy now.
So how do you decide what to be reactive to and what not to? Is there what are you like? Are you all scanning the social media trends on the Monday? But like, do that something on that. Don't do something on that.
No, it's a lot more scrappy, I guess. So we have, I said our team's grown, and we've got one guy now called Sean who looks after our LinkedIn and our Twitter. So he does spend a lot of time on Twitter. So he'll see those trends really early. He'll see what people are talking about. We also have agencies that I mentioned we work with, and sometimes they'll send suggestions as well. And then also a lot of us just do spend a lot of time on social, like just scrolling in the morning. So if there's something we've seen, like the other week we saw a custard toast. I don't know if you were big on TikTok, but there was this trend of everyone making custard toast. And that was something that sometimes we would get involved in, and sometimes we wouldn't. We didn't this time just because it was a busy week and we had lots of other stuff going on. But it's mostly looking at if there's room in our like content calendar, and also do we think it's worth like dropping everything else to prioritize creating this content. And sometimes it's like a bit of a guess and there's no like obvious answer. And I think we all just have a bit of a gut feeling, as well as like, no, let's not do that this time. Let's wait for something else.
So I suppose it's like that's the kind of things that if there are people out there who are thinking, I do need to be more reactive when it comes to transforming my social media for my organization or for myself, it's very much like pick and choose what you want to be reactive to. And like don't make everything reactive, but pick and choose the times and be appropriate with it in a way that is useful.
Definitely. And there's lots of things that like we don't do at Deliveroo, we don't sort of touch. And I remember listening to a podcast with is his name Ben from Gymshark, and they said like they don't do, after they had like an incident in like 2020 when something went wrong that they posted on Twitter, and they since then decided we don't do anything to do with politics, nothing at all. I don't know if that still is what they do, but I remember him talking about that on a podcast. So I think if you are the social person and you do want to get involved in reactive things, it's good to have clear boundaries with the business that you work for, of like what we talk about and what we don't, even just as a base. So maybe it's like nothing. If it's about politics or religion, we don't touch it. Um, I feel like that's quite a lot of businesses sort of have that blanket statement of things that they don't do or they do. And I think that's good to just have that base with the company you work for, so that if you do put something out there that's not right, you at least that that was discussed before.
Just to dig in a bit more about, like, you mentioned that you have agencies working for you. What is the division of sort of labor between something that's done by the internal marketing team at Deliveroo to the agencies that you have?
Yeah, so our actually our marketing team and I sit in the comms team, so they are separate teams. So it depends on some campaigns we lead on ourselves in-house. Also, it massively depended on resource. So last year and the year before, um, when it was trying to do quite a lot of things, we lent on our agencies a lot more. But we did have an internal videographer who would go out and create that content for us. Um, and now we do a lot more in-house as our team has grown. So we still do work with agencies on influencer campaigns, and we work with agencies to create some content for us. Um, and at the moment, our video person, we're filling the role. So I think that'll probably change again a little bit when they come. But as I said, there's been so many changes just within our team in the last few months of it growing, that I think I'm not sure how it'll sort of go for the rest of 2022, but I think the agencies we work with have always been really important, because there's just so many more people to like have ideas as well. Because especially working from home, you're trying to come up with a campaign for something and you're just like staring at the wall, being like, I wish there was someone for me to just like bounce ideas off. So having the agencies I think has been brilliant.
Interesting, interesting, interesting. So, I mean, obviously, like now, I mean, obviously, in the past 2 years, the reliance on like food delivery apps have just completely just shot through the roof. How did you guys manage that? Like, was that a complete, I mean, some people did well in that environment of stuff, like in what we were in, some companies did well, some didn't. Everyone can say that online delivery services did very well. What changed for you guys? Did you have to tear things up, or were you just ramping things up?
Yeah, so I actually joined on the first day of lockdown, so in March 2020.
What a day for you.
Oh God. Um, so as I said, Deliveroo works in like quarters. So at that time, I'd imagine they'd have had their next quarter stuff signed off, and they were just finishing a quarter. But everything literally went tits up, didn't it? Like everything, you couldn't go outside. There was all these new things, and as I said, Deliveroo was very big on stunts before and doing interactive things outside, and a lot of also, we didn't know how it was going to go. Do you remember? Literally, we didn't know if restaurants were going to close. We didn't know what could be done. So it was just, as I can imagine, for literally every business, like a mad scramble of what can we do? How can we help? And we have like loads of brilliant people at Deliveroo, and they worked with the government, and I'm sure the other apps did as well, to make sure that delivery could still continue to happen. Because I can imagine at some time maybe that was up in the air. Um, but yeah, so our team, not our team, but the larger comms team worked on that, and um, so everything changed literally on my first week. I was like at home. We decided we had all these restaurants, and everyone wanted to help. We didn't know what was happening massively on like what the government were going to say. So we decided people in hospitals need food. Let's like do what we can to deliver these meals from some of our partners. Lots of restaurants were already doing it themselves, and we were like, well, we've got a fleet of people who can help as well. So I was literally like ringing a hospital, being like, "Hello, I'm calling from Deliveroo. Would you and the staff like some food delivered?" Like it was just a very different first week to what I thought was going to happen, because everything happened so quickly, didn't it? In March, everything seemed fine, 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 and then it was like Oh my God, the world's ending.
Just thinking about like what it was like to just switch everything up like that, and like everyone had to it was like crisis comms had suddenly come in vogue again. Like I remember I did a crisis comms course just before that, so I sort of knew, oh, we're gonna have to start doing all of that, but then it just carried on and carried on. We were always in crisis comms mode, and after a while, I'm not surprised so many people like changed up jobs and like gone to different places in that period, because you kind of realize my job sort of sucks without this aspect, or like now, or they're not adapting into the way that I want. And so like that great resignation stuff that's already sort of like happening still, I totally understand why, because people's priorities change when they get into these jobs, and like their way of working changes as well. So when it comes to success on social media for you as a social media manager, what does that look like?
I think that success to me is building a community that cares about what you're talking about and the brand. And how I'd like literally measure that, it would be engagement rate. And I think what's quite interesting is that lots of people still measure engagement rate by like the number of people that follow them. But I don't really think that's a very true reflection. I think it should be the amount of people who have seen your content, and then how many of those have reacted to your content, whether that's sending it, saving it, commenting it, even just clicking like read more to see it, or playing a video. I think all of that is engagement. And I think, yeah, just building a community is so important. And at where I worked previously at Birchbox, we really did have an amazing community, um, of people who just loved the brand and um, loved what we did and the products we used and the brands we worked with. And then I have found it's more difficult at Deliveroo because we are uh, working at a hyper local level. As in, if you open Deliveroo now, or anyone listening, and I open it, what you see is totally different. I won't have the same restaurants as you. So, how do you put that, like, how do you portray that on our social accounts that goes out to the whole of the UK? And that's something that I think has been really tricky to like nail, and something that I think we still got a long way to go on it. But I think instead of trying to create content that applies to everyone, just being like the place you go to for food inspiration. And we've started some new content series that's like top 5 places in London to eat pancakes, for example, on like Pancake Day. So trying to create content that whether people live there or not, maybe they would save for when they visit, whether that's for them to order a delivery or literally to just to go there. I think we just want to be the like fountain of all knowledge on food, and I think that's a good approach. And some of the content we've got coming up is like really exciting and like entertaining, and people are going to get stuff from it.
That's really interesting, 'cause I hadn't really thought about how, yeah, literally everyone opens the app and they will have different things on there. So like the way that they relate to Deliveroo is all going to be quite different, even if they're basically getting the same basic service. They're getting different types of food, and that is definitely going to change their relationship to it. So it's interesting that you're like sort of honing in where you can on localities, but also trying to like build the sort of love for the brand just generally. And what you said also about, and what I've observed, we had Trini London on the podcast before, the brand love and the community that comes from makeup brands. Oh my gosh, like you aim for that kind of community engagement. It's insane.
Yeah, and I think Glossier was like probably one of the originals that actually built a community from scratch, and it is still that beauty brand that people love. It's the same with like brands like Doc Martens, the shoes. If you look on their socials, the engagements, like people just really love the brand. And I think the same, like I said, my friend works at Peanut, not biased, but the engagement she gets on posts, I'm like, how do you do that? It's amazing. They've built such a great community of people who care care enough to comment publicly. And and I think that's just the ultimate goal. Like I'd love to work um and build that community. I think that's the goal for everyone working in these kinds of jobs.
Yeah, I'm sort of jealous. Like, I mean, going back to, I'm not trying to go always plug the podcast that we're on right now, but like, it's talking to social media manager at the V&A, and like, I asked her, do you do any paid socials? That we never have to. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, I haven't listened to that one, but I'll need to listen to that one.
They've never had to do any paid social because it's guaranteed they will get 100K likes on something or something like that. It's guaranteed because it's DNA.
Wow.
Next question. How do you think social media impacts a business? And do you think it's something that people should think more seriously about in their arsenal of promoting their business?
Yes, definitely. I feel like I'm very, very biased and I try to like step back. But even when I do step back, I think of course social is so important to literally every business, a way to reach so many people through like one click, which if you do it right, you can do it for free. Like I guess like the V&A with their organic content. Like the power of that is just absolutely incredible, I think. And we can see over the last few years that companies are getting on board with it as well. You literally just search social media jobs, and there's now so many that are that people there are now so many jobs that people can apply for. Whereas when I first moved to London, that job at Birchbox, social media manager, I I don't think I'd seen another job really like that, which was just over 4 years ago. And maybe I didn't know how to use LinkedIn at the time, and I do now. But yeah, the amount of brands that are taking it seriously and having teams, and we're starting to see teams that are being resourced more and not just being only on one person. Um, so I think we're moving in the right direction. And if anyone's listening that doesn't have social for their brand, I feel like you really should start.
Exactly. Wholeheartedly agree. Endorse that viewpoint. So what do you see, what skills do you think are essential for a good social media manager now that so many businesses are just wanting them?
I think you really do, if you want to do it well, you do have to be like a social native. You do have to spend a lot of time on the platforms. And I think that's what I realized with TikTok when we started at Deliveroo using TikTok, I wasn't really using it much. And the agencies we worked with weren't really creating content for it either. So we we created some content, we tried lots of different things, but it wasn't very good. Like if you just scroll down, the change has been absolutely huge. I'd say in like the last 6 months, we've really, and I think we do have someone amazing. Shout out to Lizzie. She's probably not listening. But she is now owning TikTok, and again, she's like a native to it. We're in the office and we're like just saying stupid TikTok quotes back and forth to each other, and we just get it. If anyone else was listening to the conversation, they'd be like, "What are they talking about?" So I think being native to social, um, being like a good project manager, because there are so many things happening at one time, and being able to pull things and change things, manage lots of agencies, potentially if you work for a bigger brand, manage lots of people as well. um, you need to be able to manage lots of projects all at once, and be able to give things your full attention, which I find very tricky. And then move on to the next one, and then go back, and there's constantly a lot of things going on. And then I also do think, I mean, it does depend on the role, but I think if you are creative, that will massively help you, because otherwise you get stuck in a rut of creating content that people aren't interested in, or have seen a million different times. And I think there's not really that much that's original left, but you can find your way to put your spin on it. And that's something that we try and do at Deliveroo, is like look at what other brands are doing really well. I always look at what creators are doing really well, and then how can we apply this to Deliveroo? How can we take elements of what's obviously working well for them, and how can we make it our own?
Sound advice. So you sound like you know what you're doing, but like I'm sure there have been some maybe blips on the way. What do you think is maybe like the biggest mistake you made as a social media manager and how did you fix it?
Oh gosh, I've definitely left a campaign running on what's it called, Business Manager before, with when I had some paid spend. I'll not mention what brand that was at. I've covered that mistake. But something that I did when I worked at, so before I worked at Birchbox, I worked at a brand called Nouveau Lashes. I had amazing lashes all the time. It was the best. And I looked after the social there, and also I did lots of influencer stuff there as well. So because I was talking to all these influencers, I was following them on my own personal account as well. And so one day I logged onto Twitter and saw all these people that I had built these relationships with tweeting about like Tinder and stuff, and how um I remember they said like it was something silly about like getting more followers on Instagram by like adding your Instagram to your Tinder profile, something like that. This was like 6 years ago. Um and I'd replied and replied quite a lot. And then a few hours later, my boss texted me. I was actually in London at the time at a conference, I think. And she texted me being like, hello, just checking, like, do you know you've tweeted that from the work account? And I was like, what? Shit, shit. Yeah, I was luckily I had a really lovely boss and it was okay. I just like deleted them and pretended it never happened. And I think that's what I found working in social, because lots of other people in the wider business aren't on these channels. Like that's why I think what Duolingo and Ryanair are doing on TikTok, they probably wouldn't have been able to do if it was on Instagram, because lots of people in the business would follow it and be like, what is going on here? Whereas they were able to like just create this content on this platform that people didn't really know about or use. And then finally they can show like this is how successful it is. But imagine at the start watching those videos, you'd be like, what are you doing? You can't put that out as a brand. But yes, we can. And this is how we are trying to act. And I think all brands should try and act more like content creators, because people don't want to follow brands. I don't want to follow a boring brand that's like trying to get their messages out. I want to be entertained. I want to be like excited about things. I want to be engaged.
I think you touched on in that last bit was that the way that brands are relating to people has completely stretched now. Like I know what you mean. Like even 3 years ago, no one would have been like let you do certain things like capitalizing on such trends in such a certain way or talking in a way that was so outside of brand guidelines. But now it's like way more people are doing it. They first used to be like outliers who were doing it on like brands, like maybe a couple like Wendy's or something. Like, but now even like Waitrose and like Marks and Spencer's get into arguments online. They're carefully created, but they're doing it, and it gets people talking, and it gets in the press. So like it actually is working, and it's totally changed. So I do wonder like how porous those boundaries are going to be moving on. And they do change with the platforms. Like TikTok has made people way more cheekier now. When Vine left, that sort of ended. But because it's sort of video and it's just there is much more cheekiness there. There's much more playfulness there than you're allowed to get away with on Twitter. If you try and do that on Twitter, sometimes it can backfire so badly.
Definitely.
So we touched on this before in that like the work-life balance of a social media manager. Do you manage it well? Are you okay with managing it, or do you feel like sometimes,
I thought you were like, are you okay?
are you okay? Like, are you sure? No. I mean, I think we do have to ask that to social media managers. Are like, are you okay? Like, when there are high like moments of like high stress or lots of things to do, it is really important generally just like check in with people and say like, are you all right? Like, do you need any help? How do you manage that balance?
I think especially working from home, I found it so difficult my last 2 years. I mean, I've learned so much, but Deliveroo has been so fast paced and so many things happening, um and I did really struggle for quite a long time. And like I said, I think if I was in an office, people would be able to see that I was like quite stressed and did need some extra help. But I think as well, being that yes person, I was taking on things that I probably shouldn't have taken on. And yeah, I did struggle. I feel like I'm at the end of it now, though. The team has grown a lot, and I feel very like proud that I was able to do what a team of people are now doing. I mean, they're doing it better than I was doing it on my own, but I feel proud that
I
I
challenge that. I mean, you were probably doing a very, very good job before. It's just now the workload spread, and it gets then more made it's more efficient.
yeah, definitely more efficient, and more of us to like be spread and go to meetings as well. So we don't all go to all of the meetings, whereas it was like I was just going to a lot of meetings. So I think definitely um we when I started, we didn't have that as much agency support as we did after a few months, where I was doing trying to do things out of hours as well. Customer service were brilliant, and they looked after Twitter, but on the other platforms, they at the time weren't doing community management then, responding to the complaints. So there was lots of like that admin stuff of just sending things to customer service and asking them to like respond. And then also we know people are on social in the evenings and the weekends, but my hours are like 9 till 6 or whatever. So there's that side of it as well. So we got agency support to do out of hours and weekends. And I think if you are someone listening now, it's so important that you're not trying to do everything, because it really can be like really draining. And you're not as good as your job then at your job then. You need time to like switch off, to let your brain be creative. I've I tried really hard, like every lunchtime, to go out for a walk, or I mean, and luckily I live in this really high rise block of flats, and there's an actual swimming pool downstairs. And I'm not like bougie or anything, but yeah, it's a very good perk of living here. And so I tried to like go swim and knock my brain off, but I literally couldn't. It was crazy. There was just so much going on. And I think I've listened to a few podcasts like this, and I've started doing a few podcasts, and I did a webinar last week, and I'm trying to be like more honest as well, because I think sometimes you listen to things and think, how the hell are they like fine doing all of this at like a big company or somewhere really stressful, or how are they like managing to juggle all this? So I think it's really important to be like as honest as you can be. And talk to people as well. I now have quite a few friends that work in social, so I feel like even just being able to speak to them and they understand. Whereas my friends, one of like my best mates, like an actual counsellor, and she deals with things that are much more serious than me worrying about putting out a post about a katsu curry or something. When you break it down, it's like it's not that deep, it's not that important. And I think that's always really important, and having like a team around you that say that as well, whether that's like in work or outside of work, to be like, let's just break it down here. What is actually, is it, it's not life or death, is it?
Yeah, I think it's definitely like what you're saying is like having a team of advocates on your side, people who are gonna, defend your interests, and defend your time. I found that really, really helpful, and like, and also being like very upfront and honest with the people who want things from you. I'll be like, yeah, I could do this, but then you're not gonna get that. Or, if I do this, then you're gonna have to do this instead. You know what I mean? Like really like laying that stuff out is like so important. And that people pleasing aspect is something I'm starting to let go of, and that perfectionism is something I'm starting to let go of. I'm just a bit like, okay, so these are our goals for the quarter. This is what I can do. I'm not gonna like try and get us to 100% in 3 months. That's a waste of everyone's time. Let's try and get to 25%, test and learn it, and then if that didn't work, we'll try and get another way to get to that next 25%. I think definitely having that mindset is really helpful, but also is really important in the kind of team you have around you. And people will realize that in social, when they go to different types of companies, on day dot, they will come in and be like, this is not the team I signed up for. This is not the vibes I signed up for. And you're like, okay to say that. Like, it's okay to work in social and not quite enjoy those vibes and go to somewhere that you think fits better for your skill set and for like your own mental health.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen so much lately as well on like quitting isn't, what do people say? Like, isn't bad, and it's like strength to actually like quit something that you don't like, whether that's like friendships, relationships, jobs, like whatever it is. And I think that's really important as well, because um if things are really really tough, like we don't have to stay. And I think it's weighing up, like, can you make it better? And I think our team has grown now. We got the resources in that we needed from agencies, and I started saying like I can't do X, Y, or Z for because I've got too many other things I'm trying to do. And I think something else that my boyfriend or my man, someone said to me like, put a good tip, which I don't feel like I've done that much, but I want to do, is like, not I think that they say like managing your manager, but putting things back to them to say, okay, this is all the things I've got going on. Can you tell me which is the priority? Because I can't do them all. So which one do you want me to focus on? And putting that back on them as well. Because I think I've worked in quite a lot of places where, because I'm a flipping yes person, I'll just be like, yeah, I'll do that, yeah, I'll do that, yeah, I'll do that. And then you can't do it. I'm like my own worst enemy. So I think that's something I would love to do, and I'm gonna start doing, is like putting it back to whoever's, giving you the work or managing it upwards to say which one do you want me to do.
Yeah, and then if your manager can't help you, then it's time to bugger off. Do you know what I mean?
I hope everyone's managers will help them.
Yeah, in a perfect world they would, but sometimes you don't. So that's the point where you have to bugger off and find somewhere who, gives a fuck about you, to be honest. So, how would you sort of summarize your social media journey from where you started to where you are today?
Totally fell into it. I just for like some context, this is like my story I always tell in interviews when I always try and sort of get it in there. But so I graduated in 2013 and I absolutely loved uni and I didn't want to leave. And there was a thing called the Students' Union, and you could get paid to basically like go out and get drunk, which I just thought that it was like I was in Geordie Shore or something. It wasn't quite like that. I did actually do work as well, but so I had to like come up with this campaign, and it's kind of like being elected as an MP. Well, on a much smaller scale. Fucking hell, Beth, calm myself down. I'm not an MP.
It might happen now. We might manifest this.
Um, so you had to go out and canvass and talk to people about your policies and why people should vote for you, all those different things, put posters up. And one of my mates at uni was a videographer, and we decided we were going to make this video and put it on YouTube and Facebook. Um, I think Instagram had like only just started. I don't feel like many people were on Instagram then. And yeah, so we created this content. It ended in the Harlem Shake, which was like viral at the time. And yeah, it was really great. And that was the first time I realized the power of social media and how we made the video, which took a few hours, but was loads of fun. And we created something that was like really funny and fun to watch that people shared and commented on. And then from there, I feel like that's why I won the election, because that got my message out to so many more people than I could have by going around talking to people. It like could reach thousands of people. So that like where I started and saw the power. And then from there, I guess just being like the young person at brands, I loved marketing. I loved my lecturer at uni, a woman called Lucy. And she did marketing with me in the first year, and I was like, this is so cool. I remember like making a poster. God, that makes me feel like really old, like actually cutting stuff out and sticking it down. I mean, it was 2010, so I guess that is what we did. Um, and yeah, so I just fell into it and then loved the social side of it and how you could like put this message out and everyone would see it, and it was more fun than CRM or writing for websites. And then I started my own as well. So I wanted to work in beauty. So I started my own beauty blog and YouTube channel, taught myself to edit, and then finally got a job in beauty. And I feel like the rest is history. But it's just been crazy. Everything has changed so much, hasn't it? Like the platforms weren't even there a few years ago. The updates literally every week. I look on like what's his name, Adam Mazzeri the head of Instagram. He does a Q&A every week and like a video out of an update of Instagram. Literally every week there's something new. What other industry do you work in where keeping up with what the platforms allow you to do changes so much? I don't know. Like if you work in another part of marketing like SEO or email, I feel like the fundamentals stay the same. Whereas in social, they don't. So it's just you have to just be on it all the time. But the the teams are getting bigger, the budgets for social are getting bigger. There's so much more understanding now. I think that is only gonna go from strength to strength. I hope. Otherwise, what other job will I do?
Yeah, that's when I thought like that. Oh my God, like when like Facebook went down, like was it last year? Like quite, and I was a part of me was like relieved because it's like, oh wow, maybe I don't have to do this job ever again if it never comes back. Like a part of me was relieved though, do you know what I mean? Like I do love it, but sometimes a bit like that never-ending sort of having to adapt and change. Like trying to temper that. It's fun, but sometimes it's annoying. But it's like trying to find the fun in it helps.
Definitely. You got to find the fun. You got to work with people that you really like. I feel like that's so important. And at Deliveroo, there's been like brilliant people that I've worked with. and they've like kept me sane and kept me going, and I probably kept me there as well, because I think that's is so important, the people that you work with.
So, what do you think the future is for social media at the moment?
Yeah, I think it'll be new platforms, more changes, never ending updates. And as I said, like the companies taking social so much more seriously, and the amount of people working in social. I feel like in a few years' time, people who are then working in social won't believe that people single-handedly ran brand social accounts for some of the biggest brands in the world, because it just it's just crazy. And more, as I said, more understanding as well from the wider business that this is a key part of marketing. I think the most important part, but I'm very biased. Um, and and yeah, I feel like it's just so many changes, and just buckle up and let's try and enjoy the ride.
That's brilliant. That's amazing. So, we're going to go on to our quick fire round now. And it's like quick, you gotta like think about it. It's like, just think about it. And there's like 5 questions. And they're not hard though, they're not horrible. Some of the ones I came up with for the first season were fucking horrible. These are okay, so number one, eat out or eat in?
Oh, eat out.
Twitter Spaces or Clubhouse?
We did do an amazing Twitter Spaces campaign, so I have to go with that.
First social media site you ever signed up to?
Bebo.
Will you ever join the metaverse?
Yes.
Which platform do you think Princess Diana would have been better at, Pinterest or Instagram?
Jeez, I wasn't expecting that. Instagram.
So, thank you so much, Beth, for joining us. It's been really, really informative to learn about your journey, but also about how Deliveroo does their social. Where can people find you?
You find me on Instagram, @BethElna_, or I think if you just type in Beth Thomas Deliveroo on LinkedIn, I'll be there. It's me in a pink jumper. So yeah, come and connect.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been really fun.